You're watching Fox 13, the most powerful name in local news.
It's been a long first week in the Casey-Anthony trial. Bombshells and shocking testimony. Joining us this morning to give us a legal perspective on the case is attorney Felix Vega with the Hillsborough County State Attorney's Office. Thank you, Felix, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nerissa.
And we want to point out before we start that the State Attorney's Office in Orlando is prosecuting Casey-Anthony, but your office is not affiliated with this case at all.
Correct. We're completely separate entities. We have nothing to do with the Casey-Anthony case whatsoever.
Okay, with that said, let's get right into it. Busy first week, lots of promises made in the opening statements. How do you think both sides did?
Both sides came out really strong in the beginning in their opening statements. The state laid out their case that they want to focus on the 31 days in which Casey-Anthony was missing or presumed dead. Then the defense, we heard from Jose Baez, who laid out all these bombshells about sexual abuse allegations about George Anthony, about the fact that Lee Anthony might be the father of Kaylee Anthony, that this was all an accident and a cover-up at the hands of George Anthony, and really putting the focus on him. The important thing for everyone to remember is that it's the state's burden to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, not the defense.
So you were saying before that they could just be sitting there the whole time, and, you know, it's really all on the state to prove.
That's right. Casey-Anthony and her defense team really have nothing to prove. They could just sit there and do absolutely nothing during the trial. We don't expect to see that. And as Jose Baez got up there in his opening statements, he laid out what the theory of the defense is going to be and where that plays out through the cross-examination of state's witnesses or his own witnesses remains to be seen.
Yeah, defense is definitely not just sitting there. As we saw when George and attorney Baez were kind of going at it at that one point on Thursday, I believe it was. I mean, George Anthony saying, you know, show me some respect, stop badgering me. Is that unusual behavior to see from a witness?
It was unusual in the fact that the judge allowed it to happen and allowed George Anthony basically to respond to Jose Baez and to the accusations and basically go on the defensive with him. And we saw it Thursday, we saw it again Friday in their exchange going back and forth when he was talking about finding Casey-Anthony's car. So there was definitely a tension between the two of them. I thought it was unusual that Judge Perry allowed George Anthony to engage him that way. Usually, if a witness goes off like that, it's non-responsive, it stops, you move on to the next question.
Okay, well, let's talk about the other witnesses that we heard from this week. We heard from roommates, we heard from boyfriends, we heard from the fiance of the brother, Lee Anthony. Casey was painted as, you know, a lot of different women. This mom who had a bond with her daughter, a party girl, or to a woman who was bragging about lying all the time. So how is that going to affect her case? Because there are a lot of contradictions here.
Well, it was all the different faces of Casey-Anthony that we saw a lot of in these witnesses that were called all by the prosecution. This is still the prosecution's case at this stage of the game. And what they did is showed that Casey-Anthony, during the time that Kaylee was missing or possibly dead, she went on with her life. She was out partying. She was out being a normal 23-year-old woman. And then the flip side of that, when Jose Baez got up there and cross-examined all these witnesses, they showed a different side of Casey-Anthony, that she was this loving mother, that her and Kaylee had this bond. We heard that from her brother's fiance yesterday. And so both the state and the defense are going to take what they can from all these witnesses to either prove that she's guilty of being a murderer or she's innocent and this was a horrible accident.
Well, what do you think about Kaylee and Casey in the courtroom, her body language, and she's crying sometimes she doesn't look like she has any
She showed
emotion.
a lot of different ranges of emotion. I think during the opening statements when they talked about the state's case, she started to cry and vehemently shake her head no at a lot of things the prosecutor was saying. When her attorney got up there and started talking about her being abused by her father, George Anthony, she also was extremely emotional, almost jumped into the arms of her attorney at one point, reacting to hearing all these things. And that was the first time in a really, really public forum that we heard these allegations about George Anthony. The flip side of that is that she's on trial for first-degree murder, for killing her daughter. Is she playing to the jury? Is she playing to the cameras? These are all things that the jury's thinking about and also watching as well in the courtroom.
Okay, well, we got some viewer questions on my Facebook here. Some people want to know, why are we not hearing anything about who Kaylee Anthony's father is? We don't know where her father's side of the family is. We don't know anything about him.
And there's really no reason that we haven't heard about Kaylee Anthony's father. There were the allegations that it was either possibly her father George could have fathered Kaylee, that her brother Lee, in one of their the sexual assault allegations, possibly could have fathered Kaylee Anthony. But it's really never come up, and it's one of those mysteries that is yet to have been addressed in the trial, and it remains to be seen whether or not it's going to be addressed, because Jose Baez once again made these allegations. Is he going to be able to back it up at some point, either through the state's witnesses when Lee Anthony takes the stand, as we anticipate, or through defense witnesses, and whether or not he's going to actually put Casey Anthony on the stand?
Okay, so we might hear from Lee Anthony on the stand. You're
I anticipate, given the way that the state's case has been very methodical, they're going day by day by day, inserting George Anthony at certain points. I think we'll hear Lee Anthony at certain points, his interaction with his sister in those famous jail calls we've heard about. And then Jose Baez is going to get up there and be able to ask him, isn't it true that you sexually assaulted your sister? Isn't it true that you possibly fathered Kaylee Anthony? These are all things that are yet to remain to be seen in this case. Very unusual case in terms of the facts and how all the evidence is going to play out.
Round 2 next week.
Definitely.
Okay, thank you, Felix, for joining us this morning, and we'll be right back. Or let's go to Sheena with the weather.
Hey, thanks, Nerissa. Well, for this Sunday to continue our Memorial Day weekend, it's going to be picture perfect out there for